Hello and welcome to God is Love. We have been focusing on godly self responsibility, and the underpinning subtopic is human relations. So, those of you that have been following from the beginning or from the past videos, you will remember that this is just off the basis of narcissism, as well as the other foundational aspect of our lives, which is church or religion, because church or religion provide our spiritual core. Family and church are our essential structure that form our moral fabric as a people, as humanity. So let's then get into today's topic, which is just gonna look at the devastating effects of fragmented families as well as narcissistic individuals. As I mentioned on previous videos, families are much more intricate to deal with and also to consider, because there is a very high level of vulnerability that comes with families. And when the structure is not okay, then it becomes a loophole for all kinds of evil, injustice, and exploitation, dangers to take place in people's lives because of that evident lack of sincerity, lack of unity, lack of just genuine, loving, kind, genuinely operated relationships within the family structure. In my heart, I just keep saying that, one day in the near future, emotional abuse is going to be illegal. I feel like the world is moving in a fast pace in the right direction, like for the first time ever since I've existed, which is like 3 decades plus. So there is just this sudden shift globally where we are seeing a lot of exposure, a lot of justice taking place. Those that have strong spiritual discernment, they are rising up in society and finally advocating, taking the necessary steps and stepping in different kinds of scenarios. So this actually makes me very optimistic and excited for us as human beings, and it gives a lot of hope to humanity, although things may be seeming a bit hopeless given all the things that are coming to the surface which were hidden. Because in order for justice to take place, the injustices must first rise to the surface so that they can be dealt with. Therefore, I am as equally optimistic and excited about the fact that finally we are beginning to understand the danger of narcissism. Although it is currently being viewed at a more civil stage, like the political platforms and also just on governance levels, because if you go online, there's just a lot of civil and political outrage going on. There's a lot of civil and political news exposures going on. But if you look carefully behind all of those cases, because mostly they're similar, you will notice that all of them, if not most of them, they have the foundational characteristics of narcissism. And it is only through narcissism that the dysfunction that is now being brought to the surface has come to light. It's through narcissism that we are now able to identify all that has been done wrong and all that now is being called up to the surface for rectification. And then people are starting to see just the dire effects, and most people in society are facing the harsh realities of narcissistic governance, narcissistic politicians or politics. But then the root of it all is that narcissism is a thing of individual operation. We tend to forget that everything that we see in society or communities, it stems from the individual, because it takes an individual to operate a certain way, and then that person spills over into the family they choose to have, and then that spills over to the communities that they become a part of, social communities, church communities, work communities, etc. And then that becomes society. So what is publicly being seen as just a lot of injustice that's going on, a lot of this and that, listen, the root of it all is the individual narcissism that we as human beings are not ready to deal with, and we have not arrived mentally and emotionally to deal with that. Hence, we just prefer pushing it towards a more generic look. We just want to push it towards a more generic subject that everyone can point at and say, yeah, it's because this person is not doing this right. It's because the politicians aren't doing this right. That's why society is bad, or the country is bad, or there's corruption and scams and whatever. But at the end of the day, the things that we do not want to confront, the things that we do not want to reconcile, fix, stop, and accept reprimand for, they will beat us up until we are ready to face them. That's just the end all be all. People can go on and on and on and on. Society can go up in flames. This is happening in this country, that is happening in that country. There's a lot going on right now. But if you look carefully, what is the root? Where is this coming from? Well, it comes from all the dysfunctional and narcissistic families and narcissistic individuals that society is not willing to deal with on an individual level. You see, fixing the world or countries or societies based on the political frame is not going to help. It's like trying to fix the flowers on a plant, trying to ensure that the plant blooms full circle to its peak, and you are doing that by only watering half of the plant. Like, you just want to feed water to like half of the stem, and then you've choked the rest of the stem going down into the roots. You've choked it. You don't want to look at that. You don't want to deal with it. You don't want to water it, but you just want to water from here where it's convenient. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. And as humanity, we've come to a point whereby God is calling us to accountability. God is calling us to just stop looking at other people, stop pointing at other people, pointing at the log in other people's eyes, but instead take out the log in our own eyes. That is what humanity is avoiding, and that is what society is actually currently dealing with right now. And as God's children, we have a higher responsibility to be at our optimum behavior, to be at our optimum in terms of leading by example. We cannot be talking about accountability, responsibility, but then we're not living it. We are held at a higher account than those that do not know God, because we know God and we know the right principles to live by. Therefore, it starts with us. And also, that places a burden then to say, it also proves if we are true children of God. I remember just being asked by someone, why is it that people that do not even believe in God in some cases are much better behaved, they are much more sensible, rational, etc. And the reason for that is because Christianity and religion has made things positional, extremely positional, but the relationship aspect left unattended and left uncatered for and unaccounted for. So that is why you just find a lot of passivity, indifference, and carelessness within Christianity, because people have decided to just do whatever they want to do, whichever way they want to do, as long as they call themselves Christian, as long as they use the word of God, the name of God, then it just ticks off a box that they are Christian. But no, it doesn't work like that. We are going to be held accountable. As a matter of fact, we are starting to be accountable if we claim to be true children of God, and it will actually become more and more embarrassing the more that the world rises up in terms of integrity. The people that claim to be children of God will find themselves in hot water and in deep embarrassment, because it would be making a false claim. Because if you say you are something, then why aren't you it in reality? If you claim to be a kind person, but then your actions are not kind. So it's high time that we start living the truth, and we start not only speaking, but actually have our actions validate what we say.